After my 78th birthday, my son sat on the edge of my hospital-style bed, patted my hand like it was a worn-out cushion, and told me very calmly that my life as I knew it was over, just like he was reading off a weather report. No thunder, no drama. Just, "Mama, it's time. We're moving you to a facility. We already talked to the realtor about the house." He smiled like he'd just done something thoughtful. What he didn't know was that while he'd been planning my exit, I'd been planning my entrance. Not into a grave, into the truth, into my own damn power. Before I tell you what I did, let me say this. Thank you for listening to me. You could be doing anything right now, and you're here with an old lady and her story. That means more than you know. If you feel up to it, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I like to imagine little dots of light all over the world. Folks hearing my voice in their kitchens, on buses, in bed with their headphones in, thinking, "Dang, Grandma really went through it." It makes me feel a little less alone in this small, humming room where the walls listen more than people do. My name is Evelyn Hart. I am 78 years old. My knees sound like popcorn when I stand up. My right hip complains when the rain comes, and sometimes my hands forget which way the jar lid turns. But my memory, baby, my memory is a steel trap with lace curtains, looks soft, holds hard. I wasn't always in a place like this. Now, don't get me wrong, this home isn't the horror show some folks picture. There's a courtyard with roses that somebody still cares about, a fountain that wheezes more than it flows, and a piano in the common room that's mostly in tune. But the bed's not mine, the dresser's not mine, the silence at night isn't mine. I came here by choice. That part is important. I need you to hear that. I walked myself in here on my own 2 old feet, after making sure the one thing my son thought he owned, my future, was locked up far from his reach. It wasn't always like this, him talking to me like I was a problem to be solved. There was a time he was just my baby boy, my little storm. Marcus, Lord, he came into this world loud and demanding, like he'd been waiting in line too long and was ready to speak to a manager. I had him when I was 23, in a cramped apartment that smelled like fried onions and bleach. His father left before Marcus turned 2, chasing some half-baked dream out of state. So I did what women like me always do. I went to work. I started in a corner grocery, bagging collards and counting change with fingers that learned to move fast. Then I got a better job at a medical clinic as a receptionist and bookkeeper. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it came every 2 weeks, and nobody tried to fire me with a smile and a gift basket. I stayed there for 35 years. 35 I watched computers grow from gray boxes to sleek tablets. I watched doctors come and go, nurses burn out and bloom again. Patients grow from toddlers to parents bringing in toddlers of their own. And through all of it, I sat behind that front desk with my cardigan and my sensible shoes and my little spiral notebooks. See, the world thinks old women are just there to refill the coffee and say baby a lot, but we're the ones who remember where all the bodies are buried. Not literal ones, Lord help us. I mean the secrets, the whispers, the patterns. I wrote things down because the work was heavy and my heart was full, and putting ink on paper made it feel like maybe some of it mattered. At first, it was small things. Mrs. Jefferson always gets shaky when she sees Dr. Kane. Make sure she gets the nurse she likes. Or, child in room for never talks in front of father. Play cartoons when he comes in, distract him. But after a while, other things started slipping from people's mouths. A joke that wasn't a joke. A remark that shouldn't have been said. The new manager talking about weeding out the older staff when he thought the older staff couldn't hear him. I just kept writing. Dates, names, little arrows. I wasn't trying to be a spy. I was just trying not to drown in everybody's mess. At home, it was me and Marcus against the world. I worked doubles so he could play basketball instead of punching a clock. I took out a loan so he could go to that college he liked, the one with the big trees and the bigger tuition. When his financial aid fell through, I took on night shifts. I thought I was building him a runway. Turns out I might have been building him a throne he never learned how to get off of. He grew up slick, my boy. Smart, charming, always knew the right thing to say in a room full of people with money. He worked in finance, then tech, then something with consulting in the title, where nobody could quite explain what he did all day, but he always wore nice shoes. He married a woman named Kendra who said brand more often than she said please. I tried to like her anyway. That's what mothers do. We try. Then time did what it does. It sped up and slowed down all at once. One year Marcus was asking me how much formula cost. The next he was looking at me sideways when I needed him to help carry a laundry basket up the stairs. My hands shook more. My back pinched. My doctor started using words like degenerative and age-appropriate decline. Cute phrases that mean your body's clock is ticking just a little louder now. The first real shift happened small. That's how betrayal likes to move. It sneaks in through the side door, sits at your table, eats your food, and smiles at you over your own fork. "Ma," Marcus said one Sunday afternoon after church, scraping his plate clean, "you really shouldn't be driving so much. Let me handle the grocery shopping. We can put your card on an auto transfer. Make it easier." "I've been driving since before you were a twinkle," I told him, laughing. "I think I can still make it to the Piggly Wiggly." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm serious. You're not getting any younger." Like that was breaking news. Next, it was the bills. "These statements are confusing, Ma. Let me set them to come to my address. I'll manage it. That way you don't have to stress." He said it all soft, like a favor. And I wanted to believe it, wanted to set the weight down. So I let him. Little by little, envelopes stopped coming to my door. I didn't notice right away. I was busy. Busy being sore. Busy forgetting where I put my glasses. Busy trying to remember if I'd already told Kendra that story, or if I just thought about telling her. The days blurred, but somewhere in that blur, a little voice inside me started tapping on the walls. "Wake up. Look closer." The day I really woke up, I was sitting at my own kitchen table. The same table I'd bought used when Marcus was 6, with a scratch in the middle shaped like a crooked smile. The afternoon light was coming in slantwise, turning the dust in the air into gold. Marcus thought I was asleep in my recliner. What he didn't know was that old ladies don't sleep as hard as folks like to think. We nap with one ear open and one eye half on the door. He had stepped out onto the back porch with his phone. The screen light spilled through the sheer curtain. His voice dropped into that tone he uses in serious meetings. I almost let him have his privacy. Almost. Then I heard my name. "Yes, she's still in the house," he was saying. "We'll move her into Ridgeview by the end of the month. The realtor said if we stage it right, we can list above market. Once we liquidate, we can finally clear the debt and put something into the venture." My house. My little 2-bedroom on Maple Street with the squeaky porch step and the azaleas. I nursed through that bad frost. Liquidate. Like I was cargo. Something to unload. Does she know? The person on the other end must have asked, because he laughed softly and said, "She thinks we're just exploring options. She's slowing down a lot. Half the time she can't find her keys. It'll be better for everyone this way." My keys. You want to know where my keys were? In the fruit bowl where I always leave them. The same place I'd been putting them for 40 years. I guess his memory was the one that needed checking. I sat there, real still, feeling every bit of my 78 years slide into place, not as weakness, but as history, as proof, as backbone. I remembered his scraped knees, his midnight fevers, his college tuition notice I cried over in the bathroom. I remembered co-signing his first car loan. I remembered his voice saying, "I'll always take care of you. Ma, you took care of me." I guess take care of means different things when the bills come due. He came back in, all casual. "You okay in here?" he asked, kissing my head like he hadn't just tried to erase me on his lunch break. "MMH, I said, playing with the corner of a plate. "You going back to the city tonight?" "Yeah. Early. Got a meeting tomorrow." He grabbed his jacket. As he bent to hug me, I could smell that expensive cologne he likes. Sandalwood and something sharp. Smelled like ambition trying to outrun conscience. "Drive safe," I told him. My voice didn't crack. My eyes didn't tear. The storm in me was quiet, but it was moving. When the door closed and his car pulled away, I sat a long time. The clock ticked loud. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked like it had something important to say, and nobody was listening. Finally, I stood up. My body popped and protested, but it moved. I went to my bedroom and reached on top of the wardrobe for an old biscuit tin. Inside were my own notebooks, not as neat as they used to be. Some pages yellow, some edges curled, but they were mine, filled with 30 years of tiny handwriting. Every loan I gave Marcus, every time I paid a bill, just this once that turned into twice, then 10 times. Every check I wrote with a little note. For Marcus, June rent. For Marcus, credit card payoff. For Marcus, business investment. Under some of them, I'd written one more word in small letters. Unpaid. I might not have been great with smartphones, but I knew math. I added the numbers up, slow and careful, carrying the ones like my mother taught me at the kitchen table when I was 8. By the time I finished, the total made my chest tight. It wasn't just money, it was years. It was vacations I never took, teeth I didn't fix, A new couch I didn't buy because the old one's fine. It was my back hours. My standing on concrete hours. My yes, doctor, I can pick up an extra shift hours, and now my son wanted the one thing that had my name on it in big letters, the deed. I opened another notebook. This one was older. From my clinic days, names, dates, times, I saw women come in tired and leave even more tired, because the world had pushed and pushed and pushed. Little lines like, Mrs. G asked me where she can get help for her mama. Her brother's trying to sell the house out from under her. Or, lady on the bus said her son had her sign some papers and now the bank say the house ain't hers no more. I'd been listening to other people's stories for decades. Turns out I'd been living one of them and didn't realize the villain was related to me. I did what I always do when I feel small and foolish. I made a list at the top. I wrote in big, shaky letters, what still belongs to me, my name, my house, for now, my notebooks, my social security check, my story, my choice. Then I wrote another list, who can help? I stared at the page. Names drifted up from the past, like coins on the bottom of a fountain. Ms. Patty from church. She ran a seniors group and knew everybody's business in 3 counties. Jerome, the boy from the clinic IT department who used to fix my computer and patiently explain every pop-up like it was a foreign language. He'd grown into a man with kind eyes and an electric car. He stopped by last Christmas with his baby and a box of cookies. And then there was that flyer I'd stuck on my fridge and stopped seeing. Free legal aid, clinic elder law and tenants' rights. Thursdays, 2 to 5 p.m. community center. Baby, somebody put that flyer there for a reason. The next Thursday, I put on my good coat. The purple one with the black buttons. I walked down my front steps like they might not be mine for long, so I was going to feel each one proper. I took the bus to stops and walked the rest of the way to the center. It smelled like floor cleaner and hope. People laughed in the hallway. Kids raced past me with backpacks hitting their sides. The legal aid clinic was in a room at the back, folding chairs lined up. A pot of lukewarm coffee on a card table. A woman about 40 with braids piled on her head, looked up and smiled. Afternoon, Ms. Hart, I said. Evelyn Hart. I think my son's trying to steal my house. You ever see somebody's face change from polite professional to say that again in 2 seconds flat? That's what hers did. She had me sit down, brought me water, asked me questions gently, like somebody taking stitches out instead of putting them in. Do you have any paperwork? She asked. I opened my tote bag and pulled out my notebooks. My copy of the deed, a folder of letters from the bank, a pile of cold hard facts that had been hiding in warm, soft clutter. She whistled low. Ma'am, she said, flipping pages. You've been keeping records. I'm old, I told her. Writing things down is how we download to the hard drive. She laughed, but her eyes were serious. My name's Tasha. I'm an attorney with the clinic. What your son has is power of attorney forms. Do you remember signing those? I nodded. He said it was in case something happened to me and I couldn't make decisions for myself. That was 2 years ago, after I fell in the bathroom that time. She tapped the papers. Some of these are standard, but this one, her finger rested on a paragraph. This one gives him broad control over your assets. The thing is, Ms. Hart, power of attorney is not a license to do whatever he wants. Especially not if you're still competent and you can show you're being pressured. I ain't crazy, I said quietly. I can see that, she replied. Let me ask you something, just to be clear. Do you want to sell your house? Every part of me said no. No, I answered. I might not be able to scrub the floor on my knees anymore, but that house is the last thing I built with my own 2 hands. Even if I leave it one day, I want to be the one who decides. She nodded, flipping through more pages. We can revoke this power of attorney. We can file to protect your property. And if he's already moved any money or signed anything fishy, we can make him answer for that. But I need you to understand something. This will upset him. It will cause waves. I thought about little Marcus with his scraped knees. I thought about grown Marcus on my porch, saying liquidate like we were talking about old furniture. I thought about the way he patted my hand like I was a pet. Baby, I said, looking Tasha right in her tired lawyer eyes. The water's already dirty. Might as well stir it up. It took weeks, forms, appointments, signatures that made my hand cramp, a capacity assessment to prove I knew who I was and what day it was and why I didn't want to be robbed blind in the name of care. The social worker who asked me, if you had to choose, what matters most to you about where you live? I told her, I want a place where no one talks about me like I'm not in the room. We filed to revoke the power of attorney. We filed a notice with the bank that no sales could happen without my express consent. We set up a living trust in my name, with the house inside it like a pearl in a shell. I chose a successor trustee who wasn't my son. You want to know who? Ms. Patty from church. She'd been keeping the congregation's books for 30 years, never messed up a decimal, not once. When I asked her, she cried and said, "I'd be honored, Evie, we old ladies gotta hold down the fort." All of that happened quietly, like embroidery on the back of a quilt. No one looking at the front sees the knots, but the pattern wouldn't hold without them. Then came Marcus's big moment. He came over one Saturday, wearing that same cologne, holding a folder and a forced smile. Kendra was with him, her lips glossy, nails sharp. They sat me down in the living room like they were about to pitch me a product. "Mama," he started, "we've been talking. Ridgeview has an opening, and we don't want to miss it. It's one of the nicer places, with activities and nurses on staff and all that. We think it's time." "Time for what, baby?" I asked, my voice sugar-sweet. "Time for you to have more support." Kendra cut in. "You'll love it. No more worrying about bills and repairs. And the market is hot right now. We already spoke to a realtor who thinks the house could go quick." "Quick," I repeated, like I'm on clearance. He chuckled, not catching it, or pretending not to. He slid the folder across the coffee table. "These are the forms. Okay, just standard things. We'll handle the details. You deserve to rest." I looked down at the papers. On top was a listing agreement for my house, already half-filled. My name printed neatly in the seller line, their signatures hovering like vultures waiting to land. I didn't sign. I didn't shout. I just leaned back, folded my hands in my lap, and gave them a look I used when he was 5 and trying to lie about breaking a vase. "Marcus," I said, "when were you going to tell me you already tried to sign this without me?" Color crawled up his neck. "What? No." Tasha showed me the preliminary inquiry from the realtor. I continued, still calm. "You sent them a copy of that old power of attorney, the one that doesn't exist anymore." Kendra shifted, frowning. "What's she talking about?" "I revoked it," I said softly, "with a lawyer. At the clinic, weeks ago. I put the house into a trust. Child, you can't sell something that legally don't belong to you." His mouth opened. Closed. "Why would you do that?" he whispered, hurt and anger tangling in his voice. "Because you tried to sell me?" The words came out quieter than I expected, but they landed heavy. He flinched like they were a slap. "That's not fair," he shot back. "We're trying to help you. You're alone here. What if you fall again?" "What if I did fall?" I cut in, my voice shaking now, but I held it steady. "I fell the day I realized my own child saw me as an asset, a number on a page, a house he could liquidate to clean up his own mess." Kendra sucked her teeth. "That's dramatic." "You know what's dramatic?" I leaned forward, standing on a back porch talking about selling your mama's home like she can't hear. "That's dramatic." Silence, the kind that buzzes in your ears. He swallowed. "So what? You're just going to stay here until you die, alone?" "I am moving," I said, "on my terms." I toured a place. It's not Ridgeview. It's smaller, has a garden. Friends of mine from church already live there. I signed the paperwork yesterday. They're holding a room for me." He stared. "And the house?" "The house stays in the trust. When I'm gone, it goes where I say. Not to your debt. Not to your venture." I softened my tone just a hair. "I'm not doing this to punish you, baby. I'm doing it to protect the girl I was at 23, who promised herself she would never be at anyone's mercy again. Not a boss, not a man, not even her own son." His eyes shone. "So that's it. You don't trust me." I sighed. "I trust you to be who you've been showing me you are. And I love you. Those two things don't cancel each other out, but they don't magically fix each other either." He stood abruptly, knocking his knee on the coffee table. The folders slid to the floor, papers spilling like loose teeth. Kendra grabbed her purse. "Come on," she muttered at the door. He turned back, voice low. "You'll regret this, Ma." I smiled sadly. "I've regretted a lot of things in my life. Buying a rug I couldn't afford, letting your daddy back in that second time, but I have never regretted choosing my own dignity. I don't think I'm about to start now." They left. The house shuddered back into quiet. A month later, I moved into this place. Not Ridgeview with its chandelier lobby and Instagram-ready wellness corners. Cedar Grove. More modest. Fewer fountains, more rocking chairs. The nurse who checked me in called me Miss Eve and asked what kind of music I liked. The room they gave me had a window facing a maple tree that turns red in the fall. Like it's blushing on purpose. I came with 2 suitcases, my notebooks, and 1 box of photos. The rest, I put in storage under the trust. The house? It stays. Sometimes I picture it at night, sitting there on Maple Street, lights off, porch empty, but still mine. Not because I'm going back, no, that ship has mostly sailed, but because some things deserve to exist as proof you made it that far. At first, I thought the story would end there. Old lady saves her house, moves into a nice enough facility, sips tea, the end. But life has a way of adding chapters when you think the book is done. You see, Cedar Grove has a lot of women like me, women who worked 30, 40, 50 years and then got shuffled around like spare furniture. Some got put here lovingly, some got parked. There's a difference. You can feel it in the way their kids' visitor donned single quotes to one night at dinner. I heard a woman down the table say, "My son handles all my money. I don't even know where my pension goes." Another said, "My daughter put my house in her name, said it was for tax reasons. Now she's talking like I'm a guest in my own home." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Dossier vu tasted like overcooked green beans and fear. So I did what I do. I pulled out a notebook. "Okay, ladies," I said, tapping my pen on the table. "Let's talk about what belongs to who." That was the beginning of what the staff started jokingly calling Evelyn's school for not getting screwed over. I call it us minding our business, our own. We started meeting in the activity room on Wednesday afternoons. At first it was 3 of us, then 6, then 10. We brought our paperwork, wills, bank statements, letters from insurance companies with fine print that might as well have been Greek. I explained what I'd learned at the clinic. I gave out Tasha's number. I taught them how to say "I'd like to think about it" instead of signing something in front of a pushy child or a slick agent. We weren't just swapping recipes anymore. We were swapping game. Word got around. A social worker who visited sometimes heard about our little group and connected us with a nonprofit that offered free financial literacy workshops for seniors. They sent a young man, Jerome, of all people, from my clinic days. Now grayer and a little rounder but still with those kind eyes. When he saw me, he hollered, "Miss Hart," and hugged me so hard my ribs complained. He brought projectors and slides and broke down things like reverse mortgages and annuities. The ladies listened like he was reciting gospel. After class, they'd come to my room, breathless, waving papers. "Evelyn, you think my son can just take my check like this?" "Evelyn, this advisor been charging me fees I didn't know about." I told them what I knew and what I didn't. "I ain't a lawyer, baby," I'd say, "but I know a red flag when it slaps me in the face." And here's the part I didn't expect. One afternoon, one of the nurses came in and said, "Miss Evelyn, do you mind if my mama sits in on your class? She's only 62, but she's scared of retirement." Then one of the aides asked if she could bring her aunt, then a girl from housekeeping. Before I knew it, we had multi-generational office hours, grandmas, aunties, daughters, even a couple of sons, sitting in a semicircle while I tapped my pen and said, "All right now, who brought receipts?" Somebody recorded a session on their phone, just for themselves. They said, "But you know how that goes." Niece saw it, cousin saw it. Next thing I know, I got a call from Tasha at the clinic. "Miss Hart," she said, laughing, "you know you're on TikTok, right?" "On what?" I asked. She sent someone one of the nurse's teenage sons with a tablet and showed me. There I was, in my wrinkled cardigan and my silver hair, pointing at a handout and saying, "If they say just sign here, we'll explain later. You say, no baby, you'll explain now, and then I'll decide." Under the video, people had commented, "Grandma, dropping gems. Protect your elders, y'all. My Nana needs to hear this. Somebody get Miss Evelyn a podcast." I laughed until my sides hurt. Me, the woman they almost parked against her will, trending for telling folks not to sign nonsense. Then one day, Marcus walked in. It was a Tuesday, rain, kissing the windows. I was sitting in the lounge, knitting something I'd probably never finish. He stood in the doorway for a minute like he wasn't sure the room would let him in. He'd lost weight. The shine was gone from his shoes. His eyes had that tired look people get when life stops handing them shortcuts. "Mama," he said softly. I put my knitting down. "Hey baby." He came closer, sat in the chair opposite me, hands restless, rubbing his knees. For a second, I saw my little boy again, trying to confess he'd broken the neighbor's window. "I read about your class," he said. "Kendra showed me a video. I didn't know you were doing all that." "What did you think I was doing?" I asked. "Playing bingo and waiting to die?" He winced. "I deserve that." We sat there. The clock ticked. Someone down the hall laughed at something on TV. A cart squeaked by. We sat there. The clock ticked. Someone down the hall laughed at something on TV. A cart squeaked by. "I'm sorry," he said finally. The words came out raw. Scraped clean. Not the fake kind. The real kind. "I thought I was being practical. I told myself I was protecting you, but I was really just trying to fix my own mistakes with your life. I see that now." I watched his face while he talked. He wasn't slick. He wasn't performing. He was just a man who'd finally hit the wall of himself and didn't like what he saw. "I was mad at you," he went on, "at first. Like you'd betrayed me." He laughed once, humorless. "But then all this stuff with your group, the videos, the clinic, I realized you're out here protecting people, including me, if I'm honest, because if you hadn't stood up, I would have just kept on, thinking I could take and take. You made me look at who I was becoming." He swallowed. His voice went small. "You always kept notes, huh?" I smiled a little. That I did. "Did you write about me?" "Yes," I said simply. He flinched. "What did you write?" "I wrote what you did," I answered. "Not all the good, not all the bad, just the truth. A thing happened on this day, a thing was said on that one. Numbers showed up on a page and never went back down. I wrote it down so I couldn't lie to myself about it later." He stared at his hands. "Do you hate me?" The question hung there, fragile. "No," I said. "I don't hate you. Hate takes energy I don't have to spare. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt, but I'm also proud." He looked up, startled. "Proud? You came here," I said. "You sat down. You told the truth. That's the first right step I've seen you take in a long time." Tears slipped down his cheeks, catching in the stubble he hadn't shaved. "I don't know how to fix this," he whispered. "You don't fix it," I said. "You live through it. You start paying back what you owe. Not money, respect, time, listening. You stop seeing me as a resource and start seeing me as a person who built you. And you do better with your own kids so they don't ever sit across from you the way you're sitting across from me." He nodded slowly. Can I come back? Visit, not to talk about money, just to talk." I looked at him for a long time. The boy, the man, the mess, the effort. "Yeah," I said. "You can come back, but understand my boundary is staying where it is. The house stays in the trust. My decisions stay mine. You visit because you want me, not what I own." "I understand," he said, and for the first time, I believed him. Now, don't get it twisted. That conversation didn't magically wrap everything in a bow. This ain't a movie that ends with a montage and a pop song. He still slips sometimes, talks about when all this is over like I'm just going to hand him a key. I still get mad when I remember that porch conversation, but between the anger and the hurt, there's something else now. A path, narrow, rocky, possible. Sometimes he comes on Wednesdays and sits in on my school. He listens while I tell women, never be scared to ask, what happens if I say no? He gives them tips about setting up online banking without giving their password to their cousin's boyfriend. He helps Jerome update the slides. The other ladies call him Evelyn's boy. He blushes. It's a start. As for me, my days are full in a way I never expected at this age. Mornings, I walk slowly around the courtyard, saying hello to the birds and the same squirrel that thinks he owns the place. Afternoons, I meet with the women and some of the staff, going over their paperwork, teaching them to underline things that feel wrong. Evenings, I sit by my window and watch the maple tree shift through its moods. Winter bones, spring fuzz, summer shade, autumn fire. Every so often, a nurse will pop in and say, "Miss Evelyn, you got another letter." Cards, mostly, emails printed out, messages from people I will never meet, saying, "My grandma heard you, she changed her will." Or, "I didn't sign that predatory contract because I heard your voice in my head." Or my favorite, "You made me call my mama and listen, not talk." I read each one slow. I fold them up neat. I put them in a box under my bed with a label. Proof I was here. You see, that's the thing nobody tells you about getting old. The real fear isn't wrinkles or walkers. It's erasure. It's the feeling that one day they'll box up your things, repaint your room, and act like nothing important ever happened where you once stood. Like your whole life was a coffee ring on somebody's desk. But I know better now. I have witnesses. You, sitting wherever you are, listening to an old woman talk about notebooks and trust funds and stubborn sons. These nurses, rolling their eyes but secretly taking notes. Those women in their folding chairs, clutching their bank statements like they're more than paper. Their dignity. I was scared once that I would disappear quietly, that my story would end in a file somewhere labeled elderly female, no notable assets. Instead, my name lives in meetings, in whispered warnings, "Don't try that. She might pull an Evelyn and little hearts on videos I still don't fully understand. Sometimes, late at night, when the hallway is still and the machines have done their last beeping for the evening, I lie here and think about all the versions of me that led to this. Young Evelyn with cheap lipstick, counting pennies for rent. Middle-aged Evelyn falling asleep over ledgers. 65-year-old Evelyn still carrying groceries by herself, because she didn't know how to ask for help without giving away control. 78-year-old Evelyn sitting in a lawyer's office saying, "I would like to revoke that. They all live in me like nested dolls. And here's the thing that makes my old bones hum. They tried to turn me into a line item, a problem to be solved, a house to be liquidated, a woman to be parked somewhere quiet so she could stop being inconvenient. Instead, I became a lesson, a warning, a blueprint. Not because I'm special, I'm not. I'm just one more black grandmother with a hard life behind her, and a soft heart that finally learned how to bite back. What makes me dangerous isn't my education or my bank account. It's the fact that I paid attention. I wrote it down. I refused to let their version of the story be the only one on record. So if you remember anything I've said, remember this, baby. You don't age out of owning your life. As long as you can still say your name and what you want, you get a say. Don't let anybody, child, spouse, pastor, doctor, system convince you otherwise. Silence might keep the peace for a while, but it never keeps your power. And if they ever sit you down and tell you what we have decided about your future, lean back, take a breath, and ask yourself, what have I decided? If the answer doesn't match, well, you got some work to do. Quiet work, maybe, scary work, but holy work. Because in the end, we don't get to choose how long the story is. Lord knows I wish we did, but we do get a say in the last few lines. Mine goes something like this. They thought I was done. I was just getting accurate. They tried to write me out. I picked up the pen. They called it the end. I called it my turn. And now, when the lights dim and the TV flickers soft in the corner, when the maple outside my window turns to a dark shape against a purple sky, I close my eyes and feel the whole weight of my years settled around me like a quilt. Not heavy, just full. I am Evelyn Hart. I was not erased. I was not sold. I was not liquidated. I was here. I am here. And as long as someone, somewhere, is listening to this old voice and thinking, you know what? Grandma's right. Then a little part of me will be here long after this small, humming room goes quiet. That's enough. That's more than enough.